What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now, Back to the Past. I'm Alex, and in this video, to prepare for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 in just under a week, I thought we'd look back at maybe more than one. I mean, in this video, we're only going to talk about Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, the 2021 game that honestly was incredible. And we're going to talk about it, talk about the lead up. I'm considering even going back to Telltale's Guardians of the Galaxy. Now, I really didn't like that game when it first came out. I've only played it once, so I'm considering replaying it, seeing how I feel, and making a video maybe next week just to kind of get a back-to-back Guardians thing before the movie. I'm in the mood. I've watched both Guardians 1 and 2 over the last 2 nights just to get ready for 3, so I'm like fully in. I thought, you know what? This game is spectacular. It fits the theme of the channel, so let's do it to prepare for the movie. So let's talk a little bit about the lead up to this game, because I think both the lead up and I guess the post launch are very interesting. Probably not as interesting as the base game, because the base game is game of the year kind of material. But the lead up to it was, well, we had heard rumors, right? There were rumors that this game was happening. There were even rumors it was happening at this studio, a very, very talented team in Eidos Montreal, right? So you had all that happening. And then they showed the trailer. And you have to remember, and I have to remember, this game comes right after Marvel's Avengers, right? So you're having the fallout from that, and this game obviously is nothing like that. Like, it's not even close. It's not even in the same vein, and also it's obviously not the same developers. But things like Marvel's Avengers have ramifications. So when a game like it comes out, not only does it kind of set the stage for future live service games, and obviously there's kind of a preconceived notion about them, but also whatever the next thing is that's in the Marvel brand is probably going to be hit by it. So there was a little bit of that going on where people are saying, oh, I guess also you have to imagine it's more than one, right? So it's Guardians of the Galaxy, so it's multiple people. We had done that with Marvel's Avengers, played as multiple people. Now, that's what it turned out to not be the case for this game, but again, there was that line of thinking. And then the trailer comes out, and it looked fine. I think, to me, the trailer looked fine. It looked like something that, I guess, in some ways surprised me. Once we got gameplay, that's what really started to be like, I don't know. And that's the interesting thing to me about the lead up to this game, is a lot of skepticism. Now, I don't think Eidos Montreal earned that skepticism. I think the Marvel brand for gaming had deserved that skepticism because of Marvel's Avengers. So there's a lot of back and forth. For myself personally, I was going to get the game, but I was terrified about specifically the gameplay. The gameplay did not look like any good to me in any of the times that we saw it leading up to release. Game comes out. Now, I guess I'll make it known. I mean, I've done video reviews. I've talked about a potential sequel to this game, which, God, I hope one day we get. I was given a review code, and this is one of the ones that I'm actually the most kind of proud of. I got this game like 2.5 weeks early. So I was part of the media group that just gets to play it way before, it comes out to the masses. Played the whole thing, recorded myself playing the whole thing, and I absolutely loved it. It really is a game of the year kind of game, and it's because of what you thought of it leading into it. And I think, was there some excitement for it? Sure. But did people expect it to be this good? I mean, come on. You're joking. You're kidding yourself if you believe that, because I really think this game blew expectations out of the water. It's a fantastic game. Forget Marvel game, forget superhero game. This game is just really good. And, I was watching some things about it yesterday to kind of prepare for this video, and I actually watched my review for it to prepare for the video as well. The thing that stands out is, or one thing I guess that jumped off for me, is it's just a single player game. Like, I love these kind of games. I've always loved these kind of games. And when you have a game that is pretty meaty, like this game is real. I think it took me maybe 16, 17, 18 hours to beat. It's a long single player game, but it really never lets up in its quality. It seems like nowadays, especially games that are more like, they feel like PS3, 360 era, video games, which is fine. But what tends to happen is they're either not too long, like if it's a story thing, maybe it'll be like an 8 to 10 hour thing, or it's a 50 hour, open world. There's not in my opinion, there's not too many games that come out that are in that 15 to 20 hour range that's like pure single player, pure quality. The Last of Us, when it first came out, was like that. Obviously, it had multiplayer, but the single player being the focus. Uncharted 4 is one I can easily think of as one of my personal favorites. Also, I guess last year, Plague Tale. I think Plague Tale Requiem is a very good example, much like Guardians, actually just a year later, of it's also 18, 20 hours long. It's a long story, but it's just high quality throughout the entirety of it. And I guess these are the games that I'm really drawn to. So, I mean, with that quality comes the visuals. I mean, you can see it here, but the visuals of this game are really good. And again, they're jumping around, different enemies, different villains, different planets, different, environments. The game looks extremely high quality. And I mean, it's a AAA game, so it should, but it absolutely does. The gameplay. Let's talk about the gameplay first before we get into the story, because for me, I was pretty worried about it. The gameplay in this game is a blast. It is a lot of fun. And I've said this, like, this has been a kind of a running theme for me for almost 2 years now. And I'm happy about it, even though, like, I guess I was proven wrong, but it's like taught me a life lesson. This is the game. Truly, this is the game that proved to me that you can never fully judge a game, at least the gameplay part of a game, just by watching. Okay, or leading up to the game. I suppose technically, even when the game is out, I mean, when the game is out, you have so many different opinions, you have so many different looks at the gameplay. You might be able to tell how the game operates, but leading into the game, when you're just seeing footage kind of provided by them or the IGNs of the world that are playing it, you can't really tell. You really can't. And I would try. I would try to tell. And this is truly the game that told me, because when I played it, I was like, oh, the gameplay's fantastic. Now, I believe the game doesn't look good, not visually. The game doesn't look good gameplay-wise if you're just watching it. When I was playing it, my wife would watch some of it, not watch other things. But even, if you live stream this game, if you just played this game, I really don't think the gameplay looks all that spectacular. I think it's deep. I think it gets better as it goes. And I think it's extremely good. I just don't think it looks all that incredible if you're an onlooker, if you're just watching, secondhand. But that's kind of the thing, because you have to actually play it. And so I was really impressed by the gameplay, and that was the main concern, because you look at Eidos Montreal, and extremely talented, great backlog, Deus Ex, and also like great company, great studio. I had pretty okay confidence that they could tell a good story, good characters. Obviously that's very important with the Guardians, which we'll talk about in a bit, but the gameplay was the thing that always worried me. So playing it and then saying, oh man, this game's fun, and it changes things up, and there's different enemy variations, and how you control the Guardians, and again, as you kind of get more powered, like, it's a lot of fun. Well, that's my main concern. So the rest of it, smooth sailing, from now on. And it honestly was, because the rest of the game is even better. I think the gameplay is still like the weak link, even though it's not weak, it's not bad, but it probably is the weakest thing of the game, because the visuals, as I said, are so good. The storytelling, the characters. So story and characters, right? For a single player game, a game that is 15 to 20 hours long. Now the story element is maybe 5 to 6, right? Like the cutscenes. If you go watch the movie of this game on YouTube and stuff, I think it's like 5 hours, 50 minutes or so, right? So it's about 6 hour long movie. The rest of it is kind of pure gameplay and a lot of that and switching things up. But you know what? When you're in the game, they're still talking. So oftentimes, these movies that are the cutscenes, well, number one, it shows you just how many cutscenes or different, events there are in the game. But also, you got to remember, as you're fighting, as you're even just walking from one place to the next, there's banter. There's talk between the Guardians. There's something going on. Maybe there's a choice, a quick little dialogue decision you can make. And that, I think, elevates their relationship with each other, so that elevates the characters, and that maybe doesn't even get included in the grand story, all of the cutscenes of this game, right? But they really nailed these characters. Now, I guess that was another thing I was worried about. You watch the movies, or, some people maybe read the comics, right? And you have a preconceived notion, or you think how they're supposed to look, right? And I'll be flat out honest, like myself, I wasn't the biggest movie Guardians. Like, I've only liked the movies more as time has gone on. So you go back, a year and a half ago, it was slightly less than it is now. But like when you see Gamora, I think of Gamora in the movies. Now, I think the Gamora design in this game is incredible. Actually, she's probably, from a visual standpoint, she is the coolest looking, of that group. I guess Drax was really the one where it's like, oh man, that's not Dave Bautista, right? I mean, it's not supposed to be, but it's like, oh man, that's quite the change. So there's initially all right, I got to get used to this is not Chris Pratt Star-Lord, this is somebody else. And I think they did it extremely well. I think these characters are very, very likable. And one of the things that, I notice, and I'm happy because you see the comments of videos or the movies and stuff, and something that everybody says is they really made these Band of Misfits, they really made them cool. They really made them unique. They gave them personality. I think the movies do a fantastic job, but you're limited. You have very little time compared to a game from a movie to a game, right? In a game, you have 15, 20 hours. You can really flesh out the relationship. And they did. They did stuff with Gamora that, well, some of it I wasn't even thinking or I didn't even expect them to do. Stuff with like Nebula, her killing Nebula. It's, oh my God, I can't believe you did that. Drax has a huge arc kind of towards like the tail end, a huge part that kind of like gets them on a detour, story-wise, but they kind of have to deal with it. He's great. Like all of these characters are extremely, extremely good. Now, Star-Lord being the main, and you got the flashbacks with, his mom and all that stuff, and I think he's a fantastic character as well. Then you have the supporting cast, characters that, again, if you read the comics, the lore, you would know. I didn't. I don't read that stuff, so going in, I'm like, oh, who are these, new people? This father-daughter thing that they're working with throughout the most of the game, let's say, is extremely good. So the story blew me away. Like, the story is extremely good. It made me emotional. There's several scenes in this game, some at the tail end, let's say, but they're really, really good. And it's like, I can't believe going into this game that I would have felt the emotion that I felt. And I think like maybe because of where I set my expectations, that's why it was, such a shocker, because you watch some of these cutscenes or you're playing it. I guess you're still watching it, right? And they hit you. And it's like, wow, I didn't expect to feel like this for a game like this. But again, that's like the main stuff. The main story, I think, hits you and tells a pretty reasonably good story. And then also just this banter that goes on and these characters that are really good. They're really, really likable. And you have enough time that you're spending enough time with them. So you grow to like them even more. I think they did a phenomenal job. So all around, this game is fantastic. And I believe when I did like my Game of the Year stuff for 2021, I tied them because I couldn't give one over the other. I think this game and Life is Strange True Colors, which, if you can believe it, I absolutely adored that game. Those two games are my favorite games of 2021. I can't put one above the other because I kind of like them equally, but that's how much I love this game. Now, one thing I want to talk about as well, the future, the kind of repercussions after the game came out. It didn't do well, right? So I believe we've had like Square Enix just come out and flat out say this game did not meet our sales, expectations. I believe the word that they were saying, at least back then, was it didn't reach, the numbers. But this was around like the holidays, because this came out in the fall. They were talking about like the legs of the game, that maybe the game would do better over time, would do well over time. I really hope that we can get a sequel. I know there's been some dancing, Square Enix Studios and all that stuff. I don't know how likely it is. Obviously, like Eidos Montreal, the rumor is eventually they will do a Deus Ex game, right? So where does Guardians fit into that? It didn't sell too well. I think, did it eventually maybe come to Game Pass? Like, I just want as many people as possible to play this game. The thing that makes me sad is, so yesterday, I was watching different videos. I was watching some of the clips in that, full movie on YouTube, right? So it's got like 260,000 views. You're scrolling, it's got these however many hundreds or thousands of comments. All of this positivity, all these people saying, oh, this is an amazing movie. I can't believe I'm watching a 5-hour Guardians movie, right? Like a lot of that stuff. But the thing that does make me sad is you look at that and you say, I bet you, and this is maybe the same for like a lot of games, but I think this one in particular, because we know it didn't do well, how many of those views, how many of those comments that said, wow, what a game, what a movie, how many of those bought the game? I think extremely few. So the sad thing with it, and I do believe that, is that it was received extremely well. The people that played it loved it. The people that watched it on YouTube, maybe they were skeptical, maybe they didn't have the money, maybe they didn't want to buy it, whatever the reason, the people that watched it loved it. But the issue is not enough people bought it. And you could blame, and I think people did blame, and I kind of blame Marvel's Avengers. Again, like I won't let that go. This game comes out, what I believe, a year or so after Marvel's Avengers, right? So Avengers comes out, and it really shakes up the gaming industry in a lot of, maybe positive ways afterwards, but in the moment it was like horrible, right? And so this is the next one, comes out just like a year later. They reveal it, like 3-4 months before the game comes out. Now, I will say, I will also put some of the blame on the marketing because, for me, the gameplay, as I've said, gameplay didn't look good, but also I don't think it made people, calm, like the stuff they showed. I think there was still plenty of talk of, okay, well, is this just another Marvel's Avengers? Now, at a certain point, you can't do anything else, right? If you're this developer, if you're making this game, why do you have to worry so much about, another game? Why do you have to convince people so hard that this game isn't that game? I get that. But just the way the industry works and just the way the fandom works, people were genuinely scared about this game, wrongfully so. At the end of the day, anybody who thought that was wrong. I was wrong to think about the gameplay. I was wrong if you ever once, and I think maybe I compared it to in a sense to Avengers, maybe when it was first announced. I'm wrong. Anybody was wrong, and that was a big mistake. And ultimately, did that affect their sales? Possibly. Yet again, Square Enix is very weird when it comes to sales. If this game sold, and I think it sold over 2 or 3 million, so it's not like this game did 500,000 or something insane. If this game sold, say, 5-6 million, they could still come out and say, well, we really want 8. EA is, I think, a big one with that, where they're like, well, Battlefield sold 10. We were really hoping for 12 or 13. It's like, oh my God, any game that sells 10 should be a success, and you want it to do 12 to 13. So some publishers, I guess I want to say developers, some publishers are like that. Square Enix, I don't sense that too bad. I feel budget-wise, because you have to think, big AAA single player game. So there's really no replayability. Once you put in those 20 hours, you really are done. Not everybody, and also I'm sure people would maybe take more than 20 hours, but you have to think of, the majority. Most people, after they beat the game, in however many hours that is, they are done. And that's fine. And the sad thing is, I want more of those. I want Plague Tales. I want Guardians. I want a game that's 15, 17 hours, even less. I mean, if you want to give a game that's 12 to 14, that's just incredibly high quality, there's nothing else after. There's New Game Plus, New Game in general, whatever, but there's no multiplayer, there's no nothing. I love those games. I think those games still have a part to play, or they can exist in the gaming industry. The sad thing is, they still cost, 50, 100, 150 million dollars. Therefore, you have to sell 2, 3, 4, just to maybe break even, you got to sell that. So you're really looking for probably 4, 5, 6 million or more to make these games profitable, and not all of them can do it. That's the huge issue. So I hope we get a second game. I want a second game. I think this is a powerful franchise, and who knows, maybe, because we didn't have a Guardians movie when this game came out. We didn't have it for years before that. I believe, 2014 was Guardians 1, 2017, and now 2023. So it's been 6 years since a movie. Even when that game came out, it was 4 years after a movie, and really Guardians 3, I guess we knew it was going to happen, probably, right? But it was, we didn't really see it. We didn't really know anything about it. So maybe now it's getting, I assume, media is powerful. So as this third movie comes out next week, I imagine anything Guardians kind of gets a boost. Now, is it going to sell a couple million because of that? No. But a couple 10,000, 100,000 copies because of the movie, I think it's definitely possible. So there's my thoughts on it. A fantastic game. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know. Well, we'll see how this video does. If the video does okay, I can do Telltales. Telltales I have pretty much the opposite reaction to, so I think that'd maybe be fun to talk about. But let me know what you think. Make sure you're subscribed, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.